Start line setup. Columbia Sail School, housed in the Abbe clubship, provides the race committee RC boat. Its staff administers the race, which is typically a windward-leeward course with 1 or 2 laps each race. The RC boat carries the race marks and travels to open water. The wind direction is judged, and staff position a buoy, to mark the port end of the line. This is done such that the start line is perpendicular to the prevailing wind direction. This establishes the line as symmetric with respect to the wind direction. This symmetry ensures a fair start to all boats at any point along the line. In this way, neither end of the line offers an advantage. Length of the line is about 1.5 times the number of boats at 26 feet each, so for races of about 8 boats, 4 from Columbia, 4 from Sail Chicago, this amounts to about 312 feet. Next, the windward mark is placed about halfway between these marks, and windward and about 0.1 nautical mile or 600 feet from the start line. The distances are such that a 1-lap race takes under 15 minutes. There are online videos aplenty on how to start a race, but the information is not exactly applicable to Sail Chicago. This video explains a typical start race at Sail Chicago. The information describes the goals at the time of the start leg of the race. Your goals are: you would like to be in the front row of boats, near the committee boat, pointed to the wind as a close haul, on a starboard tack, going at full speed. To accomplish these goals, we test the start line to determine the favored end of the line, the favored wind direction. We expect to start on a starboard tack. Establish our final approach to the race start. Lastly, wait for the countdown. Tests done at the start line. On our arrival at the race, we begin the tests. A test for the favored end of the line. It is an advantage for you to know if one end of the start line is favored because it is closer to the weather mark. This is an advantage as you may choose to start from the closer end, as it is shorter to the mark than starting at the other end. One end could be favored if the start line is not symmetric, not precisely perpendicular to the weather mark, and so is askew. Then one end of the start line is closer to the weather mark than the other, referred to as line bias. Test this by traveling on a beam reach along the start line to arrive at the center of the start line. Then point the bow directly into the wind, luffing your sails. Tory sailor at the main sheet tests for the favored end. First, facing into the wind, then turning a beam to starboard. This is the view. It shows the RC boat is positioned well above. This means the RC starboard end is closer to the weather mark than the leeward end. This is confirmed as Tory turns a beam to port. Here the view to port shows the port pin is at the view, so below the starboard end of the line. In this instance, the starboard end of the line is closer to the weather mark, so this is the favored end of the start line. Test for line bias before each race start. Test for the favored wind direction. Because we recognize that wind direction may change moment to moment, we test for the wind direction to sail close-hauled at this moment before starting the race. It is an advantage to know the direction the boat will sail close-hauled, as following a course with sails set for close haul will get you the most direct route to the weather mark. Test this by, while you are still pointing into the wind, see which direction the bow turns. Typically, the stern tends to turn into the wind, and the bow turns downwind. Test to identify the tack direction to begin the race. Mostly this is expected to be as a starboard tack close to the race committee boat. In this way, your air to sail is clearer than if you were in the middle of the line. Here, your air would be dirtied by boats which sandwich you to port and starboard. So, now at the starboard end of the line, as a close-hauled position, this is the projected course on a port tack. This will take you away from the mark. This is the projected course for a starboard tack. This will take you more directly toward the mark, so you choose a starboard tack to start the race. Final approach. You now know where on the line you would like to start, the course direction for close haul. You now plan your final approach to cross the line at full speed on a starboard tack close to the committee boat just after the start horn sounds. Completing this plan requires knowing the time to budget to cross the line. In other words, measuring the time required to traverse your position beginning from ladder rungs below the start line to crossing the line at full speed on a starboard tack, plus the time to run the line to approximate where to be at any point on the line. Repeat and practice these maneuvers, then add the averaged measurements. Measure the time to reach the line from your position below the line and getting up to full speed to reach the starboard end of the line. You will be on a close haul. So you measure 25 seconds and repeat, getting 28 seconds, 22 seconds, for an average of 25 seconds. Also, time the line. Measure the time in seconds to run along the start line between the race committee starboard end and the leeward pin. You will be on a beam reach. So you measure 15 seconds and repeat, getting 18 seconds, 22 seconds, for an average of 18 seconds. You are ready for the countdown. The countdown begins with 3 long horns. The time you measured in final approach is applied to the timing of the horns. So you cross this line just after the start horn sounds. Here it is 3 short horn blasts, which alert you to 30 seconds before sounding of the long horn. Good luck!